One thing I found when I started engineering was that I got a lot of questions of, really, engineering, why?
Seeing women doing pit stops makes you go, I could do that. And I so wish I had that when I was younger.
Reach out to people. Think we're all very willing to give advice.
Everyone brings a different skill set, and it's to no one's benefit to have the same profile of people, 80% or 90%.
Welcome to the podcast. We are here today to talk a little bit about International Women in Engineering Day 2025, which is a very important day recognising individuals in the sport who are pioneering the future generation. And we've got two wonderful guests here today. I want to get job title correct here. Welcome Sarah Harrington, who is Red Bull Academy Programme Manager. Thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
And we've also got Ainhoa Begiristain, who is Trackside Controls Engineer for Red Bull Racing. How are you both?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah? Been busy?
Yes.
A little bit.
A little bit. Well, because the thing is I've been watching like some videos, obviously where we do some research for this podcast. So I've been watching some videos about you, Ainhoa. And I noticed that you work on the steering wheels, like you program the steering wheels, right?
That is part of the job, yeah.
Yeah. But then there was also a clip where you said there are 3,000 possibilities within one steering wheel or something.
We have a lot to play with.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether the exact quote is 3,000.
I'm sure that's what you said. That was definitely a quote from her.
100%.
It might be.
We're holding you to that.
We have quite a few different switches, and behind some of those positions, there is an extra 14 options. So it all racks up quite rather quickly.
I mean, driving an F1 car seems challenging enough as it is, and then you show people the steering wheel, and it's like all these permutations. I mean, Max has been at the team since 2016. How has has he always liked the steering wheel set up in the same way for as long as you've kind of worked with the team? And does it change every now and then?
We don't change it unless there is a real sort of incentive to change it, because it's for the driver's benefit, for our benefit as well. Like, we're very set with our little procedures to check everything. It's constant. So we may add certain options or certain functionalities race to race or year to year if we deem they are going to bring a performance benefit. But usually, no big changes for the steering wheel.
And do Yuki and Max, do they have quite similar layout setups on their wheel, or is it quite different?
Because when Yuki arrived, he was quite used to his steering wheel setup from his previous team. There are slight differences, because we had 2 weeks to get ready for the Japanese Grand Prix. So we just gave him what he's used to. They're not big differences, couple of switches and just swapped, really.
Now, obviously, we are celebrating Women in Engineering Day, which is very exciting. So we can't really go much further without just discussing F1 Academy, Sarah. So for those that don't know, you have been on the podcast before, but for those that haven't listened, can you explain what you do within F1 Academy?
Yeah, so I manage the programme. We run 3 teams with 3 cars. So I have the Peppy Jane's Red Bull Academy car. We have the Ford Red Bull Academy car. And then we have the VCARB Academy car, or Visa Cash App Academy car. So yeah, I programme manage. So that is everything from day-to-day logistics of the program, working with the team that run our cars, Campos. So I work very heavily with them to ensure that anything that we do as Red Bull, whether that's sim development stuff, physical stuff, communicate that with Campos. So we have a strong line of communication on that basis. And then I also attend the races with the drivers, work with the media and comms department, our side, to make sure that we're seamlessly delivering an environment that can enhance performance for the drivers.
So, Sarah, obviously F1 Academy is still quite new. It's still in its kind of early years. What was your kind of position before F1 Academy started, and how did it kind of come about? How did you move into this role?
So I've been a performance coach within motorsport. I think this is my 8th season now. So yeah, it was kind of a natural progression. I work also on the junior driver program as a performance coach. So I stepped up to the role a year ago, but also bring my skill set of performance coach to the table.
So, you were saying there's 3 Red Bull teams within F1 Academy. So how does that work? Because from an outsider looking in, obviously we see the Racing Bulls driver, we see the Red Bull Racing driver, but then we see that Chloe is Red Bull Ford. So is that because she's American, she has that partnership? Like, what's the difference there?
So we bring on board partner sponsors.
Right.
So that's our title partner sponsor for that car.
Right.
With Ford.
I see.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's all still just under the same Red Bull
Yeah. So
umbrella.
it's all still under essentially 3 teams, 3 cars. So each team or run a car. So with our Red Bull car, we're title sponsored with Pepe Jeans.
Yeah.
And obviously with Chloe's car, that's a Ford partner
see.
sponsor.
And talking of Chloe, obviously she's now second in the championship after
She
a great
is.
weekend in Canada. She was with Haas last year. How did it come about that Chloe kind of moved over? Because obviously you only get 2 seasons in F1 Academy as well, so time's tight, and you decided to pick up Chloe to run her in the second season. How did you come about making that decision?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Chloe had some strong performances last year. So we knew we were losing all 3 drivers last year because of the 2-year ruling. So we were starting to look at the talent that was available and what we were looking to try to deliver. And we very much focus on performance. So we were looking for championship contenders. And we were impressed with Chloe's season last year. She also... Simultaneously, we also made a decision to switch to Campos to run the cars. We were previously with MP, and Chloe had an existing relationship with Campos. So it was a natural transition for us. I think we also felt that Chloe would really benefit from having the development plan that we offer. And so, yeah, I think, and Chloe would say the same, that it was a natural fit for her to move into the team.
And now look, her she's currently in P2.
She's flying.
She's fighting Dorian
Most pole
Pan.
positions of anyone this season?
Yes, yeah. She's really made a step up and progressed really well.
Because, so as we're recording this, it's just after Canada. So the next race will be Zandvoort, end of August.
That's right.
So now what's the plan with the drivers up until then? It's just a load of sim work.
Yeah, so they have a test in Zandvoort that is happening next month. So they've got 3 days of testing. Outside of that's championship testing. Outside of that, they can also test privately on the track. They'll be training hard.
Yes.
Zandvoort is a physical track, so we'll be prepping with lots of training for that. And they work heavily with the sim team here and the sim team at Campos. So plenty of things to keep them busy.
Should we get into some listener questions?
Oh,
Because we've got a few down here.
Do you want to do the first one?
I will do. It's Carlos in Mexico asks, a lot of people say that drivers aren't athletes because they just drive, but they don't know how hard it is to sustain the pressure of 4 to 5 Gs in an accident 10 to 25. Could you explain a little bit more about how strength and conditioning helps the drivers?
Yeah, I think people are really surprised, actually. I mean, obviously, it's been well documented in regards to the neck strength that drivers require. But I think also people don't see that actually there's a lot of other physical requirements. So the steering torque is one of them. So if they need the upper body strength. So we work a lot on upper body strength. There's also a braking pressure. So they need to be able to hit the peak brake pressure. So we spend a lot of time also doing some lower body strength work. And then we combine that also with training the cardiovascular system so that they have, obviously, once you get up to F1, you're looking at an hour and a half in the car at any one time. And the same for the F1 Academy drivers, it's around 30 minutes that they're in the car. So you need to make sure that they have the endurance to cope with that capacity.
So do you also help with the F1 Academy team, Ainhoa, or are you just mainly
I'm
the F1
McCluskey
team?
with Red Bull and F1.
So how long have you been doing that?
I've been at the team for about 3.5 years.
3.5?
And this is my 3rd season traveling at Trackside.
Well, now I need to know how you ended up where you are.
Well, I studied engineering. I studied motorsport engineering here in the UK. After that, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I joined a grad scheme at an automotive consultancy, and that's where I got into controls engineering. So I had more of a mechanical engineering background, which really helps understanding all the systems that we look after in the car. And that's where and my previous job is where I more found the control engineering side of it, which is more software development to control the systems we look after.
Yeah, but then you ended up working for a World Championship Formula One team.
I know. I've always been an F1 fan. I guess that's where it comes from. I used to watch F1 with my dad when I was little. Like getting up for 5 a.m. Australia, I'll be up there.
Yeah. So how did it feel when you started working in F1?
It felt unreal. Like it's always been a dream to to do anything related to F1 and to be able to join the team, and not only that, like actually travel to the races, be trackside and see how everything operates from inside.
That must have been a proud moment for the family as well, given it was something, you know, you watched the sport with your dad growing up.
I know. If my dad could speak English, he'd tell you that.
Love that.
Going back to the F1 Academy drivers, we've got a question here from Dahlia in the USA, who says, describe what fitness habit the drivers have and what would surprise you the most, because diet is obviously a huge part of performance coaching. Is diet key? Do they get a cheat day? Because Peter in the Netherlands also wants to know that.
Yeah, so I guess fitness encompasses more than just the physical training, because I think that's your stimulus for your body to adapt. But the way that we recover, and nutrition is part of the recovery process, is what creates the adaptation. So yes, diet is, or should we say nutrition is key. Yes, I think certainly when you're working with development drivers and they're on that pathway, I don't look at diet as like good and bad foods. I think when you say cheat day, it brings the connotation
donuts,
yeah. Some foods are an absolute no, and some foods are like, yes, this is really healthy. I think what we teach on the program is that we're looking at the nutritional element of that food group. And there's certain times, you know, when we talk about being on track and testing days, that calorie demand of that day is really high.
Yeah.
And then you need to fuel that with foods that are high in calories. So, you know, I think currently we're in a culture whereby, you know, certainly like fruit juice is one that, like, as an adult, but you know, it's a lot of sugar in a bottle. But actually for a driver, they might come out of the car, actually a bottle of orange juice is a very nutritious way of fueling them. So I think it's less about, is it a cheat day or not? It's about thinking like, what is going to best fuel and sustain my energy across a race weekend or to fuel for training.
Just to kind of help people understand, I know Singapore is often referenced as the most demanding because of the humidity and the intensity. What kind of demand is that putting on the drivers? Just to kind of contextualize to the people listening how physically demanding that really is.
Yeah, I think heat, we all have slightly different individual responses to heat, but there's a couple of things that we have to consider. So obviously when it's hot, we sweat more. So there's a risk of dehydration. So it's making sure drivers have an awareness of how much fluid they should be taking on board, and also combining that with electrolytes. So it's really important. Obviously, even 1% of being dehydrated will hugely affect both physical and cognitive ability. So it's making sure that they manage that. Heat will also stress the heart rate response. So it'll actually increase your heart rate somewhere around 10 to 20 beats. So it'll increase the cardiovascular load on the body. There's certain things that we can do to prepare for heat. So we can run heat acclimation programs where the driver's being exposed to a hot and humid environment before arriving for the race to help manage that. And certainly from the cognitive perspective, we all know, when I'm certainly being British, where apart from this week where the sun is really shining, we're not very used to being in hot and humid environments, and it can often leave us feeling quite fatigued. So yeah, just from a perception of heat, there's certain things that we might implement trackside to help reduce that sort of feeling uncomfortable with that perception of heat.
That can't just be something that would just affect the drivers, because I'm also thinking of your job, Ainhoa, that you still have to stay so mentally focused during a race when it comes to the technical mechanical side of things, to be able to stay focused, stay on it, stay alert. So actually heat also affects your role.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky and I sit in the engineering office, which usually has aircon.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
So, but
Aircon, clutch.
Lots of colleagues in the garage don't have that luxury.
You're just looking at them like lovely in aircon, to their sweating.
I'm freezing right now. Don't know what you're talking about.
There are a few races where I'll be wearing an extra layer compared to everyone else, just because the aircon usually has two settings: it's on or off, and what on is full blast. Yeah. But we do actually work with our the performance coach, and he usually reminds us to make sure that we're drinking loads and we're taking energy drinks or just making sure that we stay on top of our hydration as well.
Yeah, because it's all mental focus for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to a normal race day for you, what are you doing? Like what's your hourly thing like when there's a race going?
Well, so part of my job is looking at the race starts. So that's usually probably the highest stress point of my whole weekend is making sure that everything we prepare for it goes well and we have a good start.
Please stop in the grid box. Do not go forward in the grid box.
Part of it, yes.
Do you know what I learned? So I learned this Silverstone last year when we were doing the Talking Ball podcast, and I didn't realise that it wasn't. This is probably such a stupid thing to say.
Here we
All
go.
this time I was like, oh, maybe it's just a key, just to turn it on. I grew up watching different kinds of racing. Do you know what I mean? But when it comes to Formula One, it's a whole different, and it takes like a good couple of people to fire up the car.
Could you imagine if it was a key in the garage? It'd be like, where's somebody
Where's the
put the
key?
key?
Yeah.
Just one of the other teams has stolen it.
And then you walk off and you go, blip, blip, to lock it.
Exactly.
How many backups do you think we'll have to store? And then it would be for the other car. It would be a nightmare. No, like with everything else in F1, it's a procedure to start the car. Obviously, the drivers can do it by themselves, but it's probably 3 or 4 steps.
Yeah.
I know. What's the with the race start specifically? Because I think it's super interesting. I remember I want to say it was Japan 2019.
Oh, your memory's
when
amazing.
Valtteri Bottas started at the exact time. Humans can't react that quickly. He just got lucky, but there is a tolerance built into the start. So reaction time 2.5 tenths, 3 tenths of a second typically.
Yeah, we were just doing the Canada reaction time stuff. Most drivers about 0.24 of a second.
Okay.
Wow.
That's roughly where they'll be.
What's the quickest you've ever seen?
This is where when they take their time with the lights, it may be that people may just think that, they may jump the start, but like preempt when it will happen. And most of the time you'd get away with it. Not often. We've seen quite a few penalties actually from just moving too quickly. It's probably 3 or 4 every year that happened. So yeah, it's tricky. You usually need to react to the lights, and there is a lot of work again with the performance coaches of the drivers to make sure. I think everyone has seen the big light panels and sort of tapping the panels.
Yeah. Oh god.
There's a few drivers who play with tennis balls as well, just to make sure that they're on it for the race start.
How quick are we talking an F1 driver's reaction time compared to, say, us mere mortals? Like, how much quicker are they than us?
They'd probably be in turn 1 and I'd be just about getting on the line.
Like, I haven't got it in gear. Give me a minute.
Still in neutral, sorry.
No, it is really impressive, everything. To the standards that they've got for everything, it is super impressive.
Yeah. But going back to F1 Academy, obviously, like we're very excited about Chloe this season. But because they only get 2 seasons each, you now have to look ahead. But we've got Chloe, we've got Raffaella, we've got Alicia currently on the team. But like, how are you looking for other drivers? Where do you look? How do you find these ladies?
Always looking.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's difficult because the level of female participation in karting is low. It's slightly different to working on the junior driver program, where we are predominantly looking in the international karting scene. But it does provide an opportunity to look further afield. So certainly looking at some of the national karting leagues, some of the drivers have come out of that. Ginetta Juniors is another platform that they often go into. I think the championship is such that it's advantageous to have done a year worth of experience in F4. We were discussing before we started this in regards to the level of time on track. My priority is that drivers have done a year of experience. However, we are starting to explore karting. Yeah.
Well, this is what I think, it's not quite publicly known enough that sometimes when the women are setting setting foot in a Formula One Academy car, that is literally their first time in a car like that, and they have come straight from karting.
Yeah, I guess it's a real tough championship to do that in. We're running on street circuits. Obviously, quite a lot of our races are quite far afield.
Yeah.
So there isn't the opportunity to test at those tracks. Certainly the street tracks. You're not testing at Miami. You're not testing at Singapore. So the first time, they will have prepped on sim, so they know which way around the track they're going. But nothing is going to beat having driven on that track. So yeah, it is a challenge of the championship. You have to say it's the same for everybody. But I think, certainly if you're looking at ones that have come straight out of karting, it's a challenging environment.
Yeah, I think that's just, just generally in motorsport, it's track time is so expensive now. And obviously you have simulator tools that can help assist, but specifically looking at Alicia, obviously wins in Shanghai in her first season in F1 Academy. Where did you find her and what was her journey? Maybe just to give an example of her route into F1 Academy.
So Alicia came on our radar. She was racing in GB4. So we had seen some of the testing data that had come out from GB4. Obviously, motorsport is a small world, so you have a little network of people that...
people are always looking.
Yes,
there's always someone
looking,
there.
Always looking.
Yeah.
Obviously, female talent is a big topic at the moment, so really everybody's looking. It makes it challenging. But yeah, she came on our radar. We did our assessments with Alicia and were very impressed with Alicia and felt we knew what she was capable. And so that's, at that point was when we decided to sign Alicia.
Does it make you quite proud that Red Bull are investing the most in this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing to have 3 cars on the grid, but not just the presence of having 3 cars. We've really tried to invest in creating a development program that takes a 360-degree view of a driver. I think it's easy to see what we're delivering on track, but then off track, there's so much time that goes into working heavily with Campos on the right sim prep. Sim prep's not just done for the driver, it's also done for the team. We spent a lot of time with all 3 drivers at this level, making sure physically they're prepared for driving, and then done a lot of work in terms of education, whether that's handling the media, whether that's nutrition, whether that's sleep and recovery. So yeah, I'm proud of where we stand with our development program.
Have you seen a noticeable increase in, because I think participation is so key at that kind of ground, like grassroots level. Are you beginning to see more female talent establish itself and get onto your radar, I guess, compared to when you first started in this type of position?
Yeah, I think it's still early days. Obviously, we need the grassroots, like right at the base of karting, to grow. There's definitely this year, there's a lot more females running in F4. I think at this stage, it's hard to define like absolute growth in talent, but participation numbers are definitely increasing.
I think that's the difference that I've definitely noticed is I think of me as a little girl watching racing on the telly, and it was just a men's sport. You're just watching a men's sport. So even little things like seeing the first female race engineer, seeing women on the pit wall, seeing the women engineers, seeing the performance coaches, seeing the female drivers, seeing women doing pit stops makes you go, I could do that. And I so wish I had that when I was younger. I so wish I had that.
And one of the biggest reasons we also went with Campos is 40% of our team at Campos are female.
Fantastic.
So yeah, we have a female engineer, we've got 3 female mechanics, and they're also just as invested in that progression of those routes as well. So yeah. It's you've got to have the role models to make it seen so that the young talent is recognizing that they too can move into that industry.
And obviously that's on track. And I know, are you coming through studying motorsport engineering? How have you, what was that experience like for you as a woman in what is not dominated by men?
There were 6 girls out of 120 on my first year at university.
Go on, girls.
So 5%. Wow.
Yeah, I think that percentage now definitely in the DO is a lot higher, and it's lovely to see. I think there's more girls going into STEM. There's more girls going into engineering and definitely arriving into the engineering office, into the business in general, and it's amazing to see.
Yeah. We have got some more listener questions, by the way. So this is from Edward in Germany, who says, so for you as women, was it difficult to get where you are now in this male-dominated sport? Did you have to fight to get your ideals valued by others, or were you just accepted right away?
I think because motorsport, I mean, there is a competitiveness to just get into the door. It's a highly desirable job, isn't it? So once you're in, I think people give you not the benefit of the doubt, but if you're here, you must know what you're doing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I've never felt less for being a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. It's more of a, maybe I felt less for being new until I got a bit more established and I felt like I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think I've ever had to fight someone because they saw me less for being a woman or similar. I don't know what you feel, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, human performance is sort of a minority of motorsport in terms of there's less of us in relation to, say, for instance, engineering or mechanics. However, yeah, I've come from working in sport for my entire life, really, and much the same. I don't think I've necessarily had any barriers of being female. I'd say as a female in a sport that travels a lot, that there's occasionally the odd remark of, who's looking after your children?
Oh, yeah.
Of which, likewise, you can flip that on its head. And my husband also, has the same of your wife is traveling, you're the main carer at that moment in time.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say in terms of approaching my career, no, I've only ever been positively. The reception from everybody has always been very high.
For 2025, we're excited to welcome Arvatrade as the presenting partner of the award-winning Talking Ball podcast.
Arvatrade is a globally regulated, multi-award-winning broker.
Featuring over 1,250 tradable instruments from CFDs and futures to options.
With trading platforms like MT4 and MT5, as well as their mobile app and web trader,
Arvatrade is built to empower traders to trade with confidence at any time, at any level. Because what you said earlier, Nick, about, when you were growing up watching and you didn't see women in these roles, and it's the whole, was it, you can't be what you can't see? Is that that's the kind of term? And it's like, as a man watching, me as a man, how can men be more, I guess, supportive? How can men, what role do you think men have to play in supporting this push for making motorsport a more open place where there aren't these, perceptions, it's a man's thing, it's a blah, blah, blah. Like what do you think a man's role can be in this conversation?
I guess from my side, I don't think it's a man's role, so to speak. I think, like you say, we just need to put it on the map. We just need to highlight that it is a pathway that we can take. Everybody that I've come across has never treated me any differently in that capacity. I just think it's creating the role models and then, allowing young females to see that pathway would probably be where I stand on that.
Definitely. One thing I found when I started engineering was that I got a lot of question of, really, engineering? Why? Like, questioning it. And that doesn't feel very supportive. I feel like if you know any girls who are considering a degree or a path in STEM, we should all be a bit more encouraging and actually not make them question themselves as if they were making a mistake or they were making something wrong. Other than that, I think anyone who wants to do it, they should go for it.
I think that's a good example. That's the kind of comment that could derail,
subtle comments.
And when you're so young as well, you're so impressionable, and you hear that
it's
one
that
comment,
seed of doubt, or am I making a mistake by going into engineering? Should I do something? I don't know. Should I go into maths?
And I think much like comments that I received potentially over, being a mother and traveling, I think a lot of that just comes from intrigue, and also where we sit culturally. I think as that shifts,
yes,
you see more females in engineering, that shifts the comments of, oh, really? Why would you do that? I think and that's where we're moving, really. So hopefully that just continues to further develop.
It kind of normalizes it, right?
It is improving. You can feel the improvement.
Really.
Yeah.
And I think those often, even at junior levels in karting, when Lewis talks about how he was the only black kid represented, and he would get he'd get some really nasty targeted stuff, but also just, you know, those kind of questions which would, you know, a lot of kids that would put them off and that would set them to aside. So I do think, that's where seeing people like yourselves and, you know, Bernie Collins on the comms and Ruth Boscombe and Laura Muller as well, like all of these, the visibility is 100% there, and like we're starting to notice it a lot more, which I think is super important.
I would definitely say it's the little subtle comments that people don't think about before they say them. Those are the ones that you just kind of want to be wary of. So little things like, but what if you have a baby? So then you're going to have to take time off when you have a baby, and you go, well, yeah, because I'm going to have a baby. But then I'll just go back to work.
Yeah,
That's how life works.
Yeah.
What's the problem? Everyone calm down for a minute. Right, let's move back on to listener questions before I get carried away and get angry. That's fine. So this is from Alberto in Italy, who says, actually, this is a good question for you, Ainhoa. How do you think your job will develop in the future with AI?
Big topic.
Big topic.
There is ways in which we can probably exploit AI more than we do currently, but ultimately AI is statistics. It's only as good as the data you feed it to make the models. Data which we already have. We may not be using artificial intelligence, we may be relying on data models. So there is, in that respect, we can make use of them. But I don't think it's going to change our jobs much. Or I don't think definitely we're going to be put aside because AI can do our job.
If you could give any young girl who's sat at home right now watching this, listening to this, wanting to have a place in Formula One, either in engineering or in sport or as a driver, that's thinking, I don't know how to find my place or how to do this, what's the one bit of advice that either of you could give?
I guess from my side, reach out to people. I think we're all very willing to give advice, listening to things like this. But get experience. I think people just view Formula One often, and there's lots and lots of other junior series that you can get involved in. So whether a lot of engineers, mechanics all come up through those junior series. So get some experience, because then that will give you the foresight of whether that's an environment you want to move into.
Yeah, I think the key thing is determination. You just need to not give up. Any given opening, we may get 100 CVs, so you do need to make yourself stand out. A great way to do that is to volunteer in Younger Formula, or to, if you can't get a job in Formula One straight away, to go work for a supplier, to go work for, get the experience that's going to set you apart from everyone else then applying for the next role. It's just, you need to be determined.
Yeah.
And the opportunity will come up.
I just want to say this as well. I find women in motorsport the most supportive women that you can meet. And if you need advice or anything like that, the amount of times when I was much younger and I wanted to start working in motorsport as a presenter, I would just drop a random message to a random person and be like, how did you do what you do? Or if I met someone at an event, I'd be like, I would love to have how do I do what you do? And all of them were just giving so much advice and being so supportive, and then weirdly kind of checking in along the way. There's like the community of the women within motorsport are the best of the best. They really are.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'll say, having sort of joined fairly recently, it was really welcoming.
Yeah.
And I think as well, this is a subject that I think needs still a lot more education in terms of why this is important. Because I think there will be some people out there who will just be like, oh, well, this is just the way it is. This is just how motorsport is, and just accept it. Why shouldn't we accept the status quo?
I think, even if you just look at Formula One as a sport, we're always trying to stay ahead of the curve. And as I touched on, I think relationships are really important in the sport. Like, the human element is massive. And for me, females bring a different skill set on the whole to that table. So I think if you're looking at how we move the sport on, I think having more females included in the sport is an important aspect. Why hasn't it done before? I think maybe just because we've been in a culture that hasn't facilitated it. And I think we're not the only sport looking at this. And I think there's a real cultural shift to change things. So then now you've got lots of sports behind it. That's probably one of the reasons.
Yeah, I agree. I think everyone brings a different skill set, and it's to no one's benefit to have the same profile of people, 80% or 90%. That's where having a diverse workforce is going to give you that extra. It's just going to, give you that extra capacity to look at things a different way that may give you the gains you need to improve the car further, to interpret the regulations in such a different way that can bring you a performance benefit.
Yeah, diversity is a strength. Yeah. Absolutely, especially in an F1 team, employing over 1,000 people, all these different roles and responsibilities. Again, it not just a gender thing. Like, I think having everyone from there's. I would like. I say, as a kid growing up, I desperately wanted to work in motorsport and be a driver first and foremost. And the money was nowhere near there. I could go kind of once a year, and it's just there's so many different ways that this sport has historically, and maybe subconsciously, maybe consciously, kind of excluded people feeling that they can be part of it. And I think this is just the start of it in many different ways. But I think that's why this is such an important conversation, to normalize seeing every type of person in the paddock. I think is so important.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. You've got to go do busy things.
Thank you very much.
What's
for
the
having
rest
us.
of your day like?
I am in the simulator with Yuki today.
Oh, exciting! No way!
Yeah.
Nice.
So what you do? Just running some tracks.
Yeah, well, when I left, we had just finished doing the correlation to Canada.
Yeah.
Just to make sure to understand what our limitations were.
Yeah.
And we were about to move on to Silverstone. I think when I go back, it might be time for Austria.
Okay.
What's Yuki like?
He
We
is
haven't met
such
him
a
yet.
good character.
I saw him in the canteen last week. It was really exciting, but we haven't actually interviewed him yet.
I think you need to have him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
you
you need
do.
to have him. Yeah. Yeah, he's such a good character. He brings a really good energy to the team, and he's really down to earth, and he's great to work with.
What about you, Sarah? What's the rest of the day?
I've actually got a driver in for an assessment, so
Oh.
yeah, slips are sealed.
Oh, okay. We're not allowed to know anything. That's a shame.
Shh, keep that one quiet.
What a shame.
That's very exciting. That must always be an exciting time when you're seeing someone new and you'd be like, you could be the one.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You just know how nervous they're going to be as well.
Bless, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
think that's
huge.
the hard thing when I've been on the other side of the table and and you're like, oh, that's it. The nerves are high, but yeah, we get the worst bits done in the morning. So.
Okay.
Then we get
Amazing.
to enjoy the day.
Well, thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day. You've
Absolute
both
pleasure.
been wonderful.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. And don't forget to subscribe. If you're listening, then make sure you click follow. If you're watching on YouTube, then subscribe. And let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. If there's anyone else that you want to hear from, anything else that you want us to do, let us know in the comment section below.
We are all ears. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, honestly, both so much.